Wow. And look, I've seen in the chats, and I agree with you. I agree with everybody who's written so far saying that this is the type of Republican that actually may give our country some hope. That somebody who, despite his political views, despite his policy views, which many of us would strongly disagree with, he put first and foremost his adherence to the rule of law, to the Constitution. Rusty Bowers, the Arizona Secretary, Arizona Speaker of the House, his testimony was gripping. He talked repeatedly about his belief in God and that the Constitution was divinely inspired, and that if he was going to do what Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis and Donald Trump had wanted him to do, he would be not only violating his oath, but he would be violating his faith. It was just remarkable. A couple of things stand out. First of all, at the beginning of the hearing, Adam Schiff noted that Mr. Bowers, Speaker Bowers, had received a communication just today from Donald Trump or Donald Trump's associates just before the hearing, alleging that Mr. Bowers had had a conversation with Donald Trump after the election, saying that, no, you won and that there was massive fraud. And Bowers was asked about this by Congressman Schiff and said, I did have the conversation, but I didn't have any of that they're alleging. I did not say that he won the election in Arizona. I did not say that there was fraud, that is not true. So here you have, on the day of the hearing, former President Trump trying to undermine a crucial witness in front of this hearing by suggesting, oh no, he was with me before, but now he's just somehow pandering because he's a rhino, a Republican in name only. There was some remarkable testimony where he described meetings and phone calls with Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, who was alleging that there had been widespread fraud. And Mr. Bowers, Speaker Bowers said, look, show me the evidence. You say that there are people who were dead who voted. You say that there were illegal immigrants who voted. Give me the names. And Rudy Giuliani said, well, give me the names. And then Bowers said, they never gave the names. They provided no evidence. This was a pattern that happened over and over again. He also talked about this effort to try to reverse the election by having alternate slates of electors. And this is significant here, because what you have is testimony now and evidence that in several states, including Arizona, there were Trump supporters who came up with their own alternate sets of electors without people like the Speaker of the Arizona House, Mr. Bowers, knowing about it. And then the Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump campaign pointing to these alternate slates of electors to say to members of Congress, hey, there are the electors for Joe Biden from these states, officially certified from the states, and then there are these alternate electors, and therefore, because of the confusion, you, Mike Pence, should not certify the election as Joe Biden's victory, as Joe Biden winning the Electoral College. I think I mentioned it during the break. It's as if, like you or I'm a baseball fan. I love to play softball. Imagine if I said to the New York Yankees, you know what? I have a Yankees uniform. Look at me. I deserve to be in center field today. And somehow you're thinking that the general manager, the coach of the Yankees, they're going to say, oh, yeah, of course, we'll put Shuster in center field today. It's absolute nonsense. And by the way, just because these Trump alternate electors were able to, go to Kinko's and create their own sort of certifications, they thought that somehow that would entitle them to say to Vice President Pence and to say to the Congress, oh, we have two different sets. Who do you believe we should kick this back to the states? It is simply remarkable. It is simply remarkable. It's also breathtaking. There was also some testimony there that we heard of some of the lower level Trump campaign folks and Trump supporters who felt that they were being used, who said that they did not know that the top three lawyers for the Trump campaign did not believe in this and thought that this was nonsense and how angry they are. And then, we heard the, again, gripping testimony from Mr. Bowers, and we're going to hear this in spades from the next two witnesses, Mr. Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, and also Gabe Sterling, his deputy, because they were far more public in their sort of what was going on in Georgia about denying what Donald Trump was going to do. But here we have the Secretary, the Speaker of Arizona, saying that his office essentially got shut down because there were 20,000 emails and tens of thousands of texts and voicemails from people calling them all sorts of names, claiming that he had the constitutional authority to convene the Arizona legislature in a special session, that he could do it, and he could propose an alternate set of electors, when that was not the case. It was not the law. He knew it. The other Republican legislators in Arizona certainly knew it. The only people who were pushing this nonsense were people who were part of the Trump campaign, and then the crazies out there, the mob that was inspired by the Trump campaign. And I thought it was particularly moving when they're at the end, Mr. Bowers, who, look, he is right at a central casting in terms of a House Speaker with the deep voice and the gravitas that he has and his fidelity to the Constitution, and clearly a very religious man. And when he described people descending on his home in Arizona while he has a severely sick daughter at home, and he's talking about the impact that all of this was having on his wife, who he described as quiet but strong, you could almost start to see Speaker Bowers start to well up with tears. And then you could start to see Adam Schiff also seem to get emotionally choked up. In my view, this was, perhaps one of the most powerful 40. Look, there have been a lot of powerful things that have happened in these, now 3 hearings that we've had. The primetime hearings that kicked off about January 6th, the pressure campaign on Mike Pence. To me, this was perhaps the most powerful. And here's the reason why. There's so many people who will say, oh, this is a Democratic committee, that you've got rhinos like Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, who are part of this committee. The committee is not valid. Here you have a guy who openly said he wanted Donald Trump to win. He helped the Trump campaign. He voted for Donald Trump. He is as conservative as they get. He is the Speaker of the House in the conservative-led legislature in Arizona. And he's testifying they never provided us with the evidence. They made these claims. We asked for the names. They never provided anything. Nothing. They simply wanted us to approve an alternate set of electors. And this is I think the money quote, if I can pull it up here, from Rudy Giuliani, that Giuliani said something to the effect of, well, we don't have the evidence, but we have some legal theories. No evidence, but because Giuliani has some legal theories that, by the way, campaign lawyers and officials are saying was absolute bunk, was nonsense, had never been done before in the United States, is clearly not legal. But because they had legal theories, Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, and others wanted people like Russell Bowers to forget about their entire career of adherence to the Constitution, adherence to the rule of law, and grant what the Trump campaign was asking for. And when Mr. Bowers, and we're going to hear this again from Raffensperger and also his Gabe Sterling, his deputy in Georgia, and that's coming up in just a minute here. But when Mr. Bowers said, no, I am not going to violate my oath. I am not going to break the law. I will not do this. You have not provided any evidence. When that was his response, the Trump horde descended on him with phone calls, with threats, with emails, with people outside his house yelling and screaming. And there you heard at the end testimony of somebody who had a gun in their holster on their belt and was arguing with Mr. Bowers' neighbor, prompting Mr. Bowers to have to go, perhaps not knowing if this guy was going to take out the gun and shoot him. That's what the Trump campaign did. That's what Donald Trump has done. That's what Donald Trump fostered. And I thought this was incredibly powerful testimony, incredibly effective today in the committee, showing this wasn't just about January 6th. This wasn't just about the claims that Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani and others were making, the big lie. This wasn't just their claims that there was fraud and that there was widespread malfeasance and that the vote couldn't be trusted. This was a concerted effort to essentially do an alley-oop. There's Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani throwing the ball towards the hoop, and they simply expected Republican legislators and Republican leaders like Mr. Bowers would slam it through, even though it was crap, even though it was against the law. That's what they were doing. And it is just, it's breathtaking. It's sad. I thought the emotions were real. And again, I just think for people who are watching this, for people who watch the evening news or the cable news, clips tonight, when they talk about and they show some of the highlights and they tell some of these stories, God save us if this doesn't move some of that 30% that is convinced that Donald Trump won the election. God save us if this doesn't move that. Because when you have conservatives as powerful as the House Speaker of Arizona, who wanted Donald Trump to win, who said Joe Biden won the election, there was no evidence of fraud that would have overturned the results, and that the Trump campaign repeatedly put pressure on me to do something that was illegal. Not just wrong, but illegal. How can that not move some people in this country? I think the people who will not be moved are the people who are so crazy, who are so psychotic, like Donald Trump himself, that they simply are tuning it out and think all of this is somehow fake news. But in any case, remarkably powerful start to the hearing this morning. Next up, we're going to hear from Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger, and then we're going to hear from Gabe Sterling, who made that impassioned speech on the steps of the Georgia House, I believe it was, the Georgia legislature, saying this must stop, this must end, this is going to create violence. The famous, press conference that he had in early December. They played a clip of that at the beginning of the hearing. I expect we're going to get more into that. But wow, what an incredible start to the hearing today, and so powerful. And again, the takeaway from so many of you, and look, we all have our differences politically. We all have our disagreements, and some of them are so strong. And we're literally, in my view, some of these policy issues are about life and death. When you're talking about women's rights, when you're talking about voting rights, when you're talking about the corruption of money in politics, some of us believe these issues are as serious as they get. And when somebody like the Republicans and perhaps the Republican House Speaker in Arizona have a different view and fight tooth and nail for their view about this, it's tough. It's frustrating. It's hard. But it's relieving to know that at least on the issue of the rule of law, on the Constitution, that there are some Republicans out there who will actually uphold the Constitution, uphold the rule of law. And when push comes to shove in terms of somebody trying to launch a coup and trying to deny the results of a presidential election or any election, they will do the right thing and stand up for the results and for the facts. And if we had more Republicans, I think like that, you know what, this would be certainly a different country. But I fear that perhaps Republicans are not headed towards the direction that Mr. Russell Bowers has given them, but instead are heading towards the world of Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of the other lunatics who occupy the U.S. Congress, and even Congressman Andy Biggs. There was testimony from him earlier today where he was pressuring Speaker Bowers. But in any case, the hearing's resuming. Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, is there in the red tie. And then that's Mr. Gabriel Sterling, his top deputy, in the gray tie next to him. Let's bring up the audio and see if the committee has brought in any audio here. Okay, not yet. So we'll see. We'll wait for the Chairman Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney to step back in and to guide this. This next, and again, tell me what you think in the comment section. If you think that, Shuster, you're off your rocker, none of these Republicans can be trusted, say so. Tell me what you think. I'm open-minded and happy to hear some disagreements and people with a different point of view. What's going to happen in this next section, I think, is going to be powerful in a different sort of way. I'm not sure we're going to have the same sort of gravitas or control of the room, command of the room, the presence that the Arizona Speaker of the House had with Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State. But what we are going to see, which may be where the news is that there is a live criminal investigation right now in Georgia into Donald Trump's alleged attempts to influence Georgia officials and corrupt the election. And we haven't gotten a lot of information about, other than the famous phone call from early December when Donald Trump said, can't you just find the 11,000 votes, saying this to Secretary of State Raffensperger. Other than that, we don't have a lot of information in terms of what else is there in Georgia, what else could be part of a criminal indictment, a criminal charge against Donald Trump from prosecutors in Georgia. Well, I think we're going to get some of those gaps filled in because Raffensperger is going to go beyond just that phone call. He's going to talk about a series of phone calls, a series of meetings. I think Gabe Sterling is going to talk about a series of sort of conversations as well. And we'll get a better picture, I think, from the next half an hour, 45 minutes, as to why there's so many legal experts, so many lawyers who have been following the Georgia criminal investigation who now think that could be the one that ultimately leads to an indictment of Donald Trump. Never mind what the Department of Justice should do. And there are a lot of us who think that, God, Attorney General Merrick Garland has to convene a criminal grand jury and present this evidence to them. But putting aside what a federal criminal grand jury may do, there's a Georgia investigation that is live, that is hot. And we're going to get some information now from Raffensperger and Sterling about where that investigation is and at least the extent to which they've cooperated with that panel. And we can expect, of course, that what they say to the January 6th Special Select Committee is something that they've also told Georgia investigators as well.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.